If you've ever wondered if angels are real or if spirits are giving you signs, today's episode will blow your mind. Welcome back to A Sharper Life. I'm your host, Nikki Sharp, a two-time best-selling author, wellness expert, and your personal transformation coach. Each week, we get raw, real, and authentic, whether it's solo episodes where I'm sharing behind the scenes of life, how I navigate challenges, and tips to help you live a sharper life. I also interview experts within different fields, all of which provide incredible insights that will leave you feeling inspired and ready to take action. Now, today, boy, oh boy, do I have an interview for you. This is one that will leave you hanging on every single word. I am joined by Ann Tucker, a channel who connects with the angelic realm to bring messages of healing and guidance for you in your everyday life. As a trance channel, she enters a meditative state, allowing angels to speak directly through her, where they share tips and things about your own life, things about the world, and this is a mind-blowing conversation. So Anne actually has a similar story to mine, and as well as many healers, where she had a very conventional life. So if this is someone like you, where you are working a 9 to 5, but you're feeling like something's missing or you're just not happy, keep listening. So Anne was working and had a conventional life, and she was in corporate world when she went through an experience that literally pulled the rug from under her feet. This led to a deep dive into her own inner healing, where she recognized her ability to trance channel, where she connects to angels and the angelic realm. Now, something to know about this episode is because of me speaking with Anne, who I share very similar stories and background. So our story itself is different, but you'll hear a lot. I'm opening up on my own personal psychic abilities, how I discovered these. This is it. I really cannot recommend this entire episode enough. Some of the items that we talk about, signs that angels are around you and how they're trying to communicate, and really how to tap in and learn the different signs, the messages from angels, how to navigate the change and chaos in the world today. We talk about the 5 clairs, so things like claircognizant, clairempath, clairvoyancy, and how to know which one of these spiritual gifts you have. And yes, everyone does have one of these spiritual gifts. We talk about the 7 soul types and how each one manifests things into reality differently. Other things and conversations are understanding what light and dark energy is, and how to read the energy of the room and how to read other people. We're going over, and Anne explains archangels versus angel guides and their unique roles and how they support you. We talk about emotions and why suppressing joy and not allowing yourself to experience joy, how that is just as unhealthy as feeling guilt and shame or regret, and so many tools and takeaways based on our conversation that I know it's going to be a very transformative episode for you. I am really excited for you to listen to this one, and you'll see it's a very special one. If you're on the fence of spirituality, or you're questioning your own life, or you're feeling like, there must be something more out there, but you just don't know what it is, then I promise this is going to be a juicy and informative one. So without further ado, please welcome Ann Tucker as she describes her experience of channeling angels. Ann, welcome to A Sharper Life. I am thrilled to have you in this discussion today.
Thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here with you, Nikki.
I want to dive straight in. Tell us and the audience about channeling. When did you learn that you could speak to angels, and what is it like when you channel?
Oh my gosh. So I mean, I did not start out this way. I started out in a much more conventional life. I had a successful corporate career, and I was an executive coach. I was working with major Fortune 100 companies, and all of a sudden things started happening, and I started having these psychic experiences, and really all of it kicked off with the divorce. That was kind of the thing that pulled the rug out from underneath me. I think a lot of people have some kind of life experience that shakes you up, that makes you question everything that you counted on, so that you have the opportunity to see with a fresh eye, to question, all the patterns, and really everything that you thought was true becomes untrue. And sometimes it's an illness, a divorce, whatever. And that was mine. And it opened me up. And all of a sudden I started having all these psychic experiences. And the pull I felt to explore this was overwhelming. And so, I had this, me and my partner, we had this really flourishing business as executive coaches. And I just said, I really need to explore this. And so I said, okay, if I was coaching me, what would I say to me? And it was, give it a year. Take a year and just go hard. Go wherever, travel where you need to go, do what you need to do to see what this is all about. And so I turned my back, and it is a one-way door. Like, once you come out as like the angel person,
it's Pandora's box, 100%.
Yeah, exactly. And you cannot go back in the boardroom. They're like, no, So anyways, I went down that path, and it just once I went in, it just swept me forward. So I started having an understanding of myself as a healer. I started working as a healer, and that became my full-time thing. But I was working clairvoyantly, claircognizantly. I would heal, but I wasn't yet a trance channel. The trance channeling didn't come until several years later. It was progressive, a building. As my vibration would go up, my skills would get more. And one day I was sitting out meditating on my back patio, same place always, and all of a sudden it felt like someone was sitting on me. And it was so much pressure. It was on my forehead and on my chest, and it felt like I could barely breathe. It was, it was physical. It was undeniable. And I didn't know. I was like, okay, this is something's going on. But I felt like my guides were trying to come in, and I was like, okay, if you, just come on in already. Let's talk. Like, what's going on? Why am I just stuck in this weird position? This went on for 6 months. The minute I would close my eyes to meditate, boom, it would be there on me. And I could not figure it out. And then finally, after 6 months, I was in that state, and it occurred to me that maybe they're not trying to come in, maybe they're trying to lift me up. And as soon as that dawned on me, it's like my crown chakra opened, and zoop, I went up. And then I'm up in this space, and I'm very clairvoyant, so I saw that I'm in this amazing space, and it's full of angels, and they're all around me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, so exciting. And so I'm like, great, okay, now, talk to me, say something. Crickets. And this went on for 6 months.
Oh my goodness.
Where I would sit down and meditate, I would go straight up, and they would all just sit there. And I call it the patience of the eternal. As they were in no hurry, they would take as long as it took for me to figure it out. And I was trying everything. I was like, can you write on a tablet? Can you write, you know what I mean? Like, can you somehow show me what I'm supposed to do? Finally, it dawned on me that I needed to go up and then bring a part of myself back down. And so once I did that, it was like I created a kind of a tube between me and them, and messages would come through. And I started out at first by writing, and I thought, oh, this isn't going to work. I'm a skeptical person, and I was like, this isn't going to work. And I started doing it, and I get to the end, and I go back and read it, and it absolutely rocked my world, because not only did it make sense, but it was deeply profound, and it certainly didn't come from me. And so gradually they told me, try dictating it, try speaking it. And then it's been a whole journey from that point forward as I've gotten more attuned to that. But I'll tell you, in the beginning, when they came in, the pressure was almost unbearable. It would be like putting on a helmet that would come down to about here, and it would squeeze me like being at the bottom of the ocean. And it's just the difference in vibration. They're very high vibration, and I was not as high vibration.
What's so interesting, and you don't know this about me, and my audience knows, if they've been listening to my podcast, they will. I've had very, very similar experiences. And Very similar, to the point where, and we're going to get into this about the clairs for people to understand, because I have 3 of the clairs. And as I've raised my own vibration, the clairvoyancy has come in stronger. So I've always been clairempath, claircognizant. And I've learned how to hone in on those. And then through my divorce and a lot of the healing work that came after that, the clairvoyancy started coming. And so this is the piece where you don't know about this. I've been going through since May, it started, where it was like this unexplainable hangover that I'm like, I don't really get hangovers is the thing. Like I drink, but I don't really get bad hangovers like most people. And this one, my friend had actually asked me, she's like, could you be pregnant, Nikki? Because I had like this metal taste in my mouth. I had a headache. I was bloated. I mean, like you name it, body wise, it was awful. And the hangovers, they actually start later in the day. And a normal hangover kind of gets better as the day goes on. And they were so uncomfortable, to the point where I realized that it was like my conscious mind was shut off and I was into the subconscious, like as if you're taking medicinal drugs or, ayahuasca. And I've had a few experiences like this, which are terrifying. And I kind of laugh about it now because they are so bizarre when it happens. Where I'm like, okay, everything is energy. Nothing's really real. We're all just like blobs of energy floating. And it was actually the other week, where I was in so much discomfort, but I allowed myself to just be in it and float through the discomfort. And I negotiated with the universe and I was like, okay, this kind of crazy experience, it's not nice. I'm not enjoying it. But I said, it's not fun, but I'm willing to sit in the discomfort. And since then, and because of this almost negotiation, the universe hasn't made them as intense, but now I'm just living in this here and like here on earth and up there. And I'm kind of just there all the time now. I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. And I see exactly what you're saying, where it's like, you can't rush it. You can't force getting through the discomfort. But when you allow it, then there's some magic that happens, which is quite unexplainable to the science realm. So just kind of interesting. We're gonna have a really fun conversation.
Oh, for real. And I love what you said about allowing, because to me that has been one of the primary lessons of my entire journey. And it's always that. Like it's that, with your channeling, but it's that with everything. It is the only thing in our way is us. And when we allow, even when it's totally against what we think, even when it feels like the wrong thing, like for example, when you feel like I really need to protect myself in this relationship, and I really need to keep myself safe from being wounded or whatever it is. And that's like a wall we put in front of us. And when we step out from around the wall, it feels totally intuitively like the wrong thing to do, because it feels like there's going to be like a firing army on the other side of the wall, when in fact, all there is more love. And the wall just keeps us in our wound. And it's so counterintuitive. It is so against what we feel, And it's that way with the allowing. When the channeling comes in, you just feel like, oh, I feel bad. I need to take something. I need to get rid of the bad feeling. It's like if you just ease into the bad feeling, it lessens. And all of a sudden you flow through it. It is totally against. And that's the hardest thing, I think. It is so against what we would think.
It's so counterintuitive, because we're all living, especially in Western society, we're living in our heads in a very go, and we don't allow so much of the stillness, and the stillness is needed to tap into where joy and magic and all of the, I like to explain it to my clients of, your best moments in life come when they were the unexpected. And why was it in the unexpected? Because you didn't have expectations, because we're trying to control. So tell me then, now that you've really honed in on this gift, walk us through what it looks like. How quickly can you tap in? What comes through? Like, how do you describe it to someone who's listening? Like, what does this mean to channel angels? And also, like, what do they sound like?
Yeah. So connecting for me, And I know my way of connecting, I'm a trance channel, so my way of connecting is a little different. And there's lots of people, lots of different ways to channel, like what you're describing. You are a channel too. And this particular way is I go into a deep meditative state or a trance, and I actually step slightly out of my body when they come in. So there was a period, it didn't used to be that way. It used to be this tunnel they took, but as soon as they said to start dictating, they stepped in, and they spent about 4 months reconditioning my vocal cords, which was challenging because I couldn't really talk for 4 months. For 4 months, I could talk for about 20 minutes and then nothing. And they told me in advance they were going to do it, but they were conditioning me to be able to project frequencies with my voice, which is awesome. Like, thank you very much, but it was a tough 4 months.
Yeah.
So
like, thank you.
So
it's like, thank you with a question mark.
All right. Thank you. I think. But so when I connect, I always start with grounding, and then I open up my crown and I stretch up. And I reach up as high as I can go. And then I use a visualization to help me guide them in. So I see them kind of coming down a pole. And sometimes they come in before I even open up the crown, like when I'm in the grounding state. As soon as I ground, sometimes they're all around me and I can see them. But sometimes they wait till I open up and kind of they spiral down. And then I kind of just move out. And when I'm channeling, I'm very much in my right brain. So it's a little bit like if you've ever been into drawing or painting or anything like that, and you're in this really creative visual state. But I can see a lot, and they kind of give me a second track, so I can kind of keep track of what's going on or what they're talking about because they're showing me, but I can't really recall the words that they say, not well at all. But if afterwards, if somebody says what they said, all of a sudden I'll remember little bits, but then I can't seem to hold on to it. So it's like being very, very right-brained is the best way I can describe it. Yeah, and they come through, they sound, they're the way that it's still my voice, but it does sound different. And there's different sort of angelic personalities, I would say, that come through at different times. One of my favorites is what I call the poet angels.
Yeah, so walk us through. So like the different, do you get visuals of them? What do they look like, sound like? Do they have different voices?
Oh my gosh. So the interesting thing about them is the very first time I channeled them, they gave me a name. And then they said they didn't want to give me names going forward because they wanted me to think of them not as an individual, but as an essence. And they said angels are an essence. And they said it's just like in our own body that every cell in our body contains the recipe for the whole, like the whole information of everything is in every single cell. Well, the essence of everything around us is like that about angels. Every little molecule of this essence contains every personality, we would say, of different angels. So when we call on an archangel, or we call on any angel, say for example, you have your favorite archangel and you call for them. How is it that Archangel Michael can be everywhere? Like, how is that to be, And it's because he is in every molecule of all the essence. And so when you call on him, he can appear. It's like zoop, out of the essence, he appears. And it's all those, and it is an identity, it is a personality, it is true. But it's true in the same way that if we were a collective consciousness, say that we were able to unify, humanity was able to unify as a collective, within that collective there would be me and there would be Nikki and we would have all our identities and personalities, but I would also know what it is to be you and you would know what it is to be me. So it's like that. So when they come in, they bring whichever personality is going to be the most effective for what they're communicating that day. And so sometimes it's the ones I call and the angels I work with are predominantly what I call non-earth angels. So there's way more angels than there are humans. And there's many angels that are assigned to Earth specifically, and they're part of what we call the Earth School. And they're here for a bunch of different reasons, but they're here to help us on our journeys. And they have to abide very, very tightly to the rules of the Earth School, like respecting free will, and they can't go outside the lines, and it's very, very clear what they can and can't do. And there's a lot that they can't do. They really have to kind of let us do our thing. And the angels outside of the Earth School don't necessarily have to follow the same rules. And so for this life only, they've given me access to these other angels because of the times that we are in, because this is go time. This is the moment where everybody has their biggest chance to heal as much as they can. And these angels can do things that are typically not done, is they can go a little further, they can push a little harder, they can help us a little more deeply. So, but yeah, they have the different. Sometimes, like what's fascinating about the way they talk is often angels are extremely multidimensional and they live outside of time. They're not inside. It's very hard for them to relate to us from a time perspective. So they rarely give specific timings for things, very, very rarely. But the way they see the world is, I think of it as like when you see like the vision of a bee, where they have like all these little they see like lots of eyeballs all at once, or the vision of a fly, where they can see lots of scenes at once. And I think of angels like that, as they see all potential realities at once, and they're able to comprehend all of them. So when they speak to us, often the messages are layered with multiple meanings, because they see multiple meanings in everything. So they will choose in the message, they will choose words that mean three different things, and all three are intentional. So it's incredible to think about, because we can't think of more than one thing at a time. You can try, and we just can't. They can think of everything at once. So it's just the way they are structured is fascinating.
That I have a million questions for you right now. This is so good. I wanted to share, though, something interesting that you had mentioned of when you're in that channeling state, and it's like you're there and you're not, and they're speaking. So I get the same thing when I'm doing, really any sort, even with podcasts too, and with any time, really all the time. And it's so fascinating. I'm able to be in have my own thought come, and I'm very aware that another thought that's not mine comes through, and it's like I'm given the opportunity of which one to say these two different thoughts of pathway, and I always go with what's been delivered into my mind, but then I'm able to see the other thought at the same time, the Nikki thought, and then almost the higher than the channel. It's very, very fascinating. So let's go. I want to talk about, for people that don't understand what the clairs are. You mentioned that you have a few of them. I did as well. If someone is interested in, they're dabbling, or they've maybe thought, I've seen things or heard things, how do you explain the five clairs to anyone?
Yeah, well, I would say the main thing I would say for everyone is that every single person has at least one spiritual gift. And that it's part of our path to explore and to use that spiritual gift on our life's journey. And some people are meant to. So one of the things everybody can do is intuition. Everyone has that, right? And that is your connection to your higher self. And that is that gut knowing. It is that all of a sudden, aha, I should do it this way. It's that people, we all talk about that. I just felt it in my gut. I should do this thing. Then on top of intuition, we have potentially all these different ways of receiving channeled information. And so you and I, being very clairvoyant is visual, so we would see things, and that is to see things. It's literally, if you were to go right now, if I was to say, imagine a pink tree, and you put that in your head, and you go and you think about that right now. Imagine a pink tree. And the place that you go to see that imagined thing, that is your imagination space. And that's the same place where clairvoyant images arrive, is in the same place you go when you try to imagine something. It's just that when you're there, you may be imagining a pink tree, which is what you were trying to think. And then all of a sudden a gorilla will walk by. And it's nothing you imagined. It just shows up out of nowhere. And you're like, oh my gosh, where did the gorilla come from? That was channeled. So it's the surprise element, right? It's when it comes in unexpectedly. But there's their clairvoyance, there's clairsentience, which is like an all of a sudden download knowing, where it's like you have this, claircognizance is the download of knowing. Clairsentience is feeling it in the body, where you have this. So someone who's clairsentient may connect to another person and feel what's going on with that person somewhere in their own body, and they just get close to that person. They're like, wow, I know that you feel really tight in your body, or you have a lot of anxiety right now, because they can sense it in their body. So you can also have crazy things where you can taste things, and that can be channeling. You can smell things. There's people who smell, and that's happened with me. I will tell you, it used to be a joke with me and my partner years ago that I used to say all I can smell, that my smeller was broken because I was always smelling pee and pot. I'm like, what is it with that? And it turned out what I was smelling was dark energy, and I had no
Oh,
idea.
interesting.
Yeah, and I would get into a cab and I'd be like, "It smells like pot in here," and be like, and everybody was like, "No, it does not." I'm like, "Yes, it does." And then I thought it was just something wrong with my olfactories, but nope, I was smelling dark energy. Isn't that crazy?
So when it comes to then, because I get that, like and I have been my whole life, and it makes so much more sense now. And I've learned more about all of these things, like clairsentience. I am that, or I have that claircognizant. So when you said, Archangel Michael, I knew you were going to, of all the different angels, I knew you were going to say
That would be the
him.
one.
And I was
Yeah.
like, interesting. So yeah, and then started the clairvoyancy. When someone, like, how can someone discern bad energy within these different clairs or the senses?
Oh gosh. So, I mean, the biggest thing I would want to say is it's really easy to feel fearful of what is unknown, and to feel fearful when I say dark energy or bad energy. And it is nothing to be afraid of. That every human is light. We are light. And light, if you walk into a room and you turn the light on, you cannot turn on the dark. You can only turn on the light. There's no light switch that goes, "Oh, I'm turning on darkness now." That light always wins against dark. And so, yes, there are energies out there that are heavier energies, and you can attune to them. Like, for example, if you feel suddenly not yourself, if you were feeling super positive, super uplifted, if you were feeling really confident, and then all of a sudden, for no reason, you feel self doubt, and you feel like you're in the dumper, or you start doubting what you're doing. Doubt is a big one. Then you know that there's probably something on board. And that is, it's nothing to say about any individual. It can happen to literally anyone. And it could happen because you walked through a subway, and you were happening to have maybe a sad moment, and all of a sudden you've got this, somebody following you. And it is nothing to be afraid of. All you have to do is you connect back into your higher self. You get back into your center column of light. Fill yourself up with light. So get into the sense of gratitude and just fill your body and your field going out as far as you can with that bright, bright energy. And just push away everything that is not in your highest and best good. So, and if you still have it, then there is a lot of healers in this world, lots and lots of light workers who can help you shake it. But it is like catching a cold. So I really want to downplay the fear aspect, because it is like catching a cold, and it's that serious. It's not something to fear.
I love what you said on that. Of it, we are beings of light, and when I walk into literally anywhere, I can feel people's energy, and I can walk into a room and it's like, ooh, this is a heavy room. And so I'm very kind of not protective in a, like, I don't go out places, but it's just, there are times where I almost have to, like, turn my senses off, because I can feel everyone around me, and it's like I can hear noise. And what I was saying earlier is I'm so highly sensitive that it's like, bees, for example. I know a lot of people don't like bees, and they're really terrified of getting stung. For me, it's like a bee comes, and how do I explain it? If you take a magnifying glass and you look at it and you watch it, and it's vibrating so intensely, that's what I hear. And it's like the loudest noise ever. Like dogs barking, I cannot stand a dog's bark, because it's like so shrill to me. And most people are like, what do you mean? It's just a dog barking. I'm like, ah! So I've personally learned, places to go, not to go. It's why I have certain routines. But as you talk about then, okay, if we're light beings, what does that mean? And what does it mean if someone's on a darker energy? And I'm going to throw in then, you had mentioned about vibration. So let's bring that into light and dark.
Yeah, for sure. So, and there's one thing I would add to that, just that it's a useful tool that you can use if you are someone who's very sensitive to energy. is one of the tools that the angels gave us is that you can say you're going to go into Costco. And before you walk in, you know it's going to be super crowded, right? Especially we're coming into the holidays. You can imagine that you have a giant gong, which is your energy. And before you walk in, you bang the gong and let your energy radiate out in front of you and fill the space. And then as you walk in, you see yourself walking into your energy. Your energy is everywhere. You're walking into your energy. And so it's a way of creating a safe space for you. And if you ever start to feel it like, oh, somebody's coming by, just hit that gong again. And you can use a gong, a trumpet, or whatever floats your boat, but something that resonates for you, that you can feel your energy radiating out and creating safe passage for you through whatever space you're going through. So it's an easy, quick technique that you can use, particularly for empaths.
I love it.
Who can feel energy. Yeah, yeah. So, and sorry, so your question, you were asking about vibration and
and light and dark, because you had mentioned like when you were in the taxi and you can smell the dark or lower energy. And so contrasting that, if we as humans are light, and for someone who maybe is newer to these, the conversation we're having right now is what someone would typically think is more woo-woo. And I'm like, great, let's go there. Let's do it. But someone who maybe doesn't understand so much of this spiritual talk, what is a light being? What is dark energy? And throwing in like the emotional vibration scale, which I think has to do with these two.
Absolutely. And I think that's it, is the key, is the emotion. The way we can understand it is everything is vibration. Emotions are vibration. So our body is like a tuning fork that understands our reality through vibration, and we feel it through our emotional state. So the best thing we can do to navigate our world is to be conscious of what we are feeling at any one given time. So when you are feeling happy, you are at one of your higher vibrational states. And when you are feeling low and depressed, you're at one of your lower vibrational states. And each of us kind of has a bandwidth that we kind of vibrate between. You kind of know your lowest low and your highest high. And we exist, and the angels call it our soul song. That who are you? Who is Nikki? In the process of being you, with all of your memories, all of your experiences, everything about you, that creates the pattern of your vibration within the octave of your lowest low and your highest high emotionally. So this is your soul song. And so you may meet someone who has a higher soul song or a higher vibration, who can stretch a little higher into a higher octave, or someone who stretches into a lower octave, someone who has a really hard time reaching the happy levels that you can get to. And so this is, and the main thing is I want to convey in all of it is that there's no judgment. That somebody who is in a low state of depression, it doesn't mean that they're a worse soul. It just means that they are experiencing this darker side of themselves. And there's purpose to it. There's purpose to things like depression and the dark night of the soul, that when someone goes through those experiences, what I understand is that it's literally like, imagine a slingshot, and how you pull and stretch back a slingshot as far as you can, and you're building up potential energy. And that pulling back is depression. It's like creating a reservoir of feeling inside of you, because depression is like hard to escape. It is all encompassing, right? It is a depth of feeling that's hard to achieve anywhere but on earth. So it stretches your capacity to feel, even though it's heavy. But heavy, what does heavy do? If you put water in a water balloon, it's heavy, it stretches it out, and then it's got more capacity. So you pull it all the way back, and then when you let that slingshot go, whoosh, it goes, you can go to a higher high because of it. So you create more potential for love. So there's every pathway that we go through, there's purpose to it. There's reasons for us to have our experiences. But yeah, so I say that because I know a lot of people struggle. And when we talk about high vibration and low vibration, that people can feel bad if they don't feel good, and it's okay. The key thing is like what we were talking about in the beginning, is to allow, is that when we are feeling bad, same thing if someone who has panic attacks, the key thing that promotes panic attacks is resisting the panic attacks. And if somebody sits into the panic and understands, I have panic in my body, the panic was most likely stuck there because of some experience in your life. And if we just sit with the panic and allow and have compassion for ourselves and allow that, just like you would with a young toddler who was injured, who was feeling that panic, you wouldn't tell them, stop feeling panic, you would allow them to express that feeling until it was gone. And that's what we're meant to do, is to allow, to breathe through it, to allow, to let it move through us, which is what all emotion is meant to do. Yeah.
Incredible, because I've been having this exact conversation with a group of women. It's called the Ultimate Transformation Program. And we've been talking about duality. And within duality, you can be both happy and sad at the same time. And I love this, the soul song in that. And I'm very open, both on this podcast, to my Instagram, to my clients. And this summer, so I went through a divorce in February, and this summer, the healing that, it's like the divorce sucked. The healing that happened afterwards, ooh, that was even worse. But as you're saying, like with that slingshot, I was at a low. Like I was in that duality of, I could recognize how grateful I was, and that there were moments and tiny little glimmers of joy throughout the day, tiny little glimmers. And I really allowed myself, and I slowed down to sit in the discomfort. It's actually, I call it within the group and what I teach, sitting in the shit. Why? Because we think shit is, it's gross, it's ugly, it smells bad.
Yeah.
And that's really what discomfort is. And so allowing yourself to sit within the discomfort and that duality, where you can be both excited and hopeful about the future and sitting in discomfort right now. And the more that you're able to do that, and we were just having this conversation last week on our live call, that when you do that and you allow yourself to feel, that's where the magic comes from. Because what I've found, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, is that so many people, it's not just that they numb and avoid and suppress the bad feelings, right? The quote unquote bad feelings like anger or sadness, but people are suppressing joy as well, which is, I see, it's fascinating now that I've learned so much more, but I recognize that, like sitting in the dark night of the soul, like I was there this summer, and oh my God, it sucked. And I recognize exactly not only why I had to go through that and why my soul chose to. I'm on I feel like maybe my soul song has gone up a few octaves, and I'm like, oh, like I've just experienced the top down to the bottom, and it's fascinating. So I wanted to share, like, how interesting. I love that we're having this conversation right after that. We just had that one.
There are no accidents, right? Yeah, everything is a purpose. But yeah, so I totally relate to that about people suppressing their joy as well. Like, think about, like, how often do you celebrate your wins? I mean, truly celebrate your wins. And I am super guilty of this. And my angels have told me very clearly that I need to learn to celebrate my wins. And I had to go through and make a list of, like, these are benchmarks, or these are things that I would like to do in my life. And then here's what I'm going to do if I achieve them. And we achieved one just recently, and we went out with some friends, and we bought really beautiful Hermes scarves, just little ones, but they were like, it was it's something I would never normally do for myself because they're expensive, and they're just, you don't need one, but they're so pretty. They're so pretty. So we each went, and it felt special. And it's something that I would normally I would get to the end, and then it was almost like the goal it disappears because it no longer seems valuable to me because now I've achieved it, right? And so then I just move the marker, and I move the marker. And so that is not giving myself the joy. And here's what's amazing is the angels have said that in this great shift in consciousness that we're going through, that the angels are here on earth to help us, guide us through the great shift in consciousness. And that the energy they will be holding is the energy of celebration. So we need to be able to resonate with the energy of celebration for them to they'll be literally helping us through into a higher state of consciousness. So it's more important than just that it's nice for me to feel good. It is literally, this is part of an energy that we are meant to hold as we move into a higher state of consciousness, is this sense of celebration, celebrating ourselves, celebrating our wins, all of it. And it's not easy. I think we are so full of programming, so full of, I don't know where did yours come from? I know where mine came from. Mine came from coming home with straight A's and nobody notices. And you know what I mean? It's just the goal moves. Yeah.
I mean, what you're saying, I know will land with everyone listening. And I'm guilty of that too, where it's like you have this mental or momentous achievement or thing, whatever it is, and then you hit it, and And instead of, the celebration of it, it's like, okay, did it, what's next? And question on that, because we are in what people would consider both the awakening. And so what does that mean, the awakening? And there's a lot of perceived negativity in the world with politics and wars. And so if we're in a place where we're getting into this higher consciousness and the angels are like, look, guys, it's all good. There's joy. And people are like, no, like a lot of people are like, fuck that. Trump just won. I'm really like, my mom, for example, is such an anti-Trump person that she was like, we're going to leave the country. And I'm like, oh, I don't, okay, leave the country out of joy anyway, but there are a lot of people who are in that place right now. So what are the angels' advice to someone who is in a lower vibration or is in a fear-based state and is listening to this being like, okay, I hear you, but
Yeah, there. So everything that's going on in the world right now is energy that needed to rise to the surface. So the way that we clear ourselves as humans, the way that we move into a higher vibration is by witnessing what we are. It's like this is a school and we're learning about ourselves. And so we witness as we project our reality from inside of us into our world. We bump into our wounding. And that is true for empaths too, that if you are around someone and they affect you and you start to feel low and you're resonating with something that's going on inside of them, it exists somewhere inside of you too. So it's an incredible tool for self-healing because you say, oh wow, there's something in me. What is it? Let me bring it up so I can witness, so I can observe, so I can allow that to be inside of me, and then we integrate it into our heart. So that's true in the world. So all of the polarity, think about all of the Me Too movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, those things that were going on. It's not that they didn't exist before, it's that nobody was talking about them, right? They were just hidden, they were pushed down, they were repressed in the same way that our emotions are repressed. There's a lot of experiences that we've had, a lot of things that we've done or said or felt that we would rather wish we didn't. And so we just push them down and we try to avoid them because, like you say, it's sitting in the shit, right? We don't want to. It feels bad. So we push it down. And that's what we do as a society. We want to say, no, that's not true. That doesn't happen. These things, that's just ugly. We don't want to think about that. We have to, because it's there, we have to bring it up and we have to be the witness. So right now we are witnessing ourselves as a culture, as a society, as humanity. We are seeing the depth, the profound depth of our heaviness. And that will then create the capacity of the slingshot to move into. So what we have to do is be the witness, and we have to not judge ourselves. We have to move into this and say, this is part of who we all are. And yet we are still all the light. That even when we hold heavy energy, we are still the light. And so it's a process of trying to see what is from the perspective of understanding this is a perspective that is not my own, and yet I can accept and love that person as a human. And so it's trying to see the polarity without being drawn into the polarity, trying to observe it. So when we are angry, when we are triggered, it is resonating with something inside of us. So say, for example, someone was really, really upset about any of the issues that are on the table, any of them. There's going to be some underlying reason why that particular issue really gets them. And it could be because maybe they felt unobserved. Maybe they felt that they've been shut down. Maybe they feel there's no place in the world for them, right? Maybe they feel like they can't get a start in life because all the forces are bent against them, whatever it is. And so that energy, that feeling, what's happening in the world is going to trigger it inside of them. And they're going to feel this great sense of injustice, and it's going to come up and it's going to rage inside of them. And this is their opportunity to be the witness, to say, oh, wow, this is affecting me. So here's the thing is, if there was a huge argument in the world about should we all carry umbrellas or should we not? And people were fighting like crazy about like, we are the umbrella people and we are the no umbrella people. And you were standing on the sideline, you would be like, honestly, I don't have a dog in this race. You'd be like, I don't care. Like, you guys have your umbrellas, don't have your umbrellas, just everybody please get along. Because it would not be triggering you. Because there's no part in you that is called into that polarity. But if it spoke to you in some way, if you felt it, like if you were indignant, then that means you own that wounding. And there's something there for you to heal. There's something that you can, and it's a gift. It is such a gift. Because the more we raise our vibration, the harder it is to find our wounding. The low hanging fruit is gone. You have done all the basic healing. You've done all the stuff that was readily observable. Now it's the seeing ourselves that's the challenge. So every time you get triggered, it's an enormous gift, because it is engaging in the master's program of life.
Oh my God, you are speaking my language. There's not a lot of people that I can have these conversations where I'm like, and I want to keep it more, I don't want to say low level, but I'm like, let's talk about the masters. Let's talk about soul contracts, which we might. We might. What are some signs that someone can look for that angels are around them and trying to communicate?
I love that question. Thank you. So I will tell you the most fun story is that, so I used to run a program called the Golden Circle years ago. And one of the women in that program, I don't do one-on-one sessions anymore, but this was a process where I worked very deeply with a small group of people. And so she was used to having sessions with the angels, and she was out on her walk that morning. We had a session booked for that afternoon. She was out on her walk, and she's talking to a friend, and then all of a sudden there's a huge gust of wind, and that picks up all the leaves, and the leaves are just swirling and dancing all around her, and they land all around her, and she's like, gosh, wouldn't it be amazing? When she tells her friend, wouldn't it be amazing if that was angels? And she just says it like randomly. And then she's thinking about it all day, and she's thinking about like how it would be amazing to have that kind of connection or that demonstration of their presence. And she comes into the session. She doesn't say anything about what happened. And she asks, when I'm in trance, she says, will I ever be able to see you? And the angels said, we were there. That was us in the leaves. And they were hilarious about it. They said, yeah, we were dancing in the leaves. We had fun raining on you, and we will do it again. And it was so beautiful. It was so amazing, because of course I came out of the trance at the end, and she tells me what happened. I was just amazed. And I've seen that over and over and over again, that your angels are right there, that you do have, every single person does have a guardian angel, and they are the guardian of your inner spark, your spark of the divine. They move through you. They literally amplify your energy. They are active participants in your process of living. And they help you to stay on course, to stay on the path that you planned for yourself. But you can see or feel them in a bunch of different ways. One of the easy ways is to just ask for a sign. You can tell them, I want a sign. Like, show me feathers are easy and fun. Pennies are easy and fun. I had another person ask for pennies. And it was during COVID, and she was never leaving her house. And she's like, where's my pennies? Where's my pennies? She's like not finding any pennies, but she literally was never going outdoors. And then finally she went down, and the first place she goes, she walks in, and the entire floor is made of pennies. Literally, it was like pennies covered in like shellac or something. It was like 1,000,000 pennies. It was so awesome. But yeah, so ask for, it's just a very fun way of getting that confirmation. Ask for a sign.
And when you talk about angels and that we all have a guardian angel, I know some people would then think that's maybe someone from their own on earth, someone that they know that has passed. Are our angels those people who have then moved on, or was it an angel that was assigned that, like, we can go Google, Archangel Michael, for example?
Yeah, so we have both angels and guides. So both, and they do different jobs, and sometimes they overlap in their jobs. But guides can be your lost relatives, people that you've loved. They can be ancestors. They can be people who were important to you before you even began this life that you don't have memory of, but they love you. And so they've come to help you, to guide you. And you can also request specific guides. So say, for example, and this happened to me. I remember one time I was in a library, I was in a bookstore, and I was surrounded by kids. I had my kids and a friend's kids, and we had like kids all over the place. But I was really wanting to find this one book, but I was having a really hard time concentrating to search for it. And so I just released and allowed, and I just sat and I just said to my guides, I said, please bring me a librarian guide and show me the book that I need to find. And I just stood there and I let the kids be crazy, and I talked to them and answered their questions, and I didn't even look at the books. And then it was time to go. So I turned and I walked away and I walked down the aisle, and as I'm walking, my eyes passed by. Oh, there's my book right there. And I got it, and it was just a gift. And so there's this idea that you can request specialty guides if you want to, which is super. So you have your regular guides, you can request special help, you need bookkeeping help, you need whatever the help is, ask for a specialist. But your angels are different. They are different from humans. So angels are, the way they describe themselves, so they say we are the spark of the divine. We have the divine, the divine creator is inside of us, that we create our reality from inside of us. So literally, as you walk into a room, you are emanating your soul song and you are finding things that are in resonance with your song and you're drawing those things to you. Your reality reflects you. Your reality becomes you. Angels don't do that. Angels don't have that same spark. What they have is the light of the divine. So they are the awareness, the presence of the divine. So which is why we call them messengers, is that we think of a messenger being like you hand them a letter and then they fly off and carry it. But it's not quite like that. They focus their awareness on whatever it is that you are. If you're having a conversation, with your guides, with your divine, with your source, whatever name you use, they shine their awareness on it and it brings the presence of the universe to you. And and they're attracted to us because we carry the spark of the divine, but they work through us and with us. And so your guardian angel is born with you, is literally physically born with you. So they are incarnated, but they are in a light body, not in a physical body. So they are literally, and they're attached to you. They're like with you the whole time. And there's a lot of angels that are born, but most angels never are born. Most are never, ever, ever incarnated. But there are angels that get born onto earth, but in a light body, that if you, especially like people who have near-death experiences, can often see them because the veil is very thin for them. So they are the ones who actually see a light body angel. And I have heard that once we move through the shift in consciousness, we may be able to see them, which would be incredible. But yeah, but there's many more angels that are not able to be seen, that are not in physical form. They're not in light bodies. They are in the essence.
And so with that, my question I originally was going to ask was, if we're all given an angel at birth, are these angels that are named? Or are they, because I'm sure there's an abundance of them, and I'm just going to use Michael again, since he's clearly with us today. Hi, Michael.
Yes.
Is like you and I, we come from different places, born at different times. Would we both have Michael, or would one of us have Lydia? I'm just making up a random name
Leo,
there. Yeah.
Yes. It is more often Leo the angel. And that doesn't make them less than because they're not archangels. So what usually happens is you have an angel, which is assigned to you, and then you also have relationships with the archangels.
And what's the difference between the two of those?
Between the two, archangels are more powerful generally. Archangels are more powerful. And they fit inside of a lexicon of knowing is how they would describe it. They fit within a sphere of resonance among themselves. And they're here to assist humanity. They're super involved in our journey and they're present for everyone. So, and what's different about an archangel versus your angel is only for you. They are incarnated and they're dedicated to you. So it really can't be an archangel. Archangels are for everyone.
You've mentioned before that the angels can give us signs and not just signs, but knowings about the future. And I'm curious, what are some of the things that they would like us to know, either on a personal level for each one, which I know will be different, or in general society as a whole?
Oh my gosh. So we are in the midst. I mean, you can look back since the beginning, really since 2020, and see how much the world has changed and how volatile the world is and how chaotic the world is. And we still have a couple more years to get through where things are going to get a little worse, not better, a little worse in some ways. And what the angels always tell me, and it can get worse in ways in terms of expanded war. They've been very specific about economy, war, political major upheavals. So there's very specific things they've talked about. And the things that the angels say when they tell us about these things, it's in no way to cause fear. It is in order to let us know and not be caught flat-footed, and to have the awareness, okay, these things are all leading us to somewhere much, much better. That it is the unwinding of systems that are holding us into a lower frequency, into a lower state of awareness. So everything we lose during this stage is stuff that we're meant to lose. And as we let go of it, as we allow, release, and let go, it will be like the phoenix from the ashes, that the minute we let go of something, something new will rise from it. And we're meant to be the witness. Again, we're meant to notice what is lost, to have our grief, process our grief, and then look for what is the phoenix and turn towards that. What is rising from this? What is evolving that is a higher vibration coming from this? It's a lot like what just happened in Asheville and in the American South, where we had this, incredible destruction. And there's so many people that came forward and said, wow, absolute, had to have their grief, had to experience the loss. And then what they are seeing move out of it is this incredible community and sharing and people helping one another, and this beautiful expression of what a new community could be, how it could become out of this experience. So they would say that as we are going through these experiences that we are in the midst of and that are coming, that when we feel fear, is to be aware, to have that self-awareness that fear is in us, to be present with our fear, to experience the fear, to allow, to not judge ourselves for being fearful. And then to remember that wherever you're sitting in that moment, what we are usually fearful about is something that's happening out in the world. It's a fear about something that might occur. Because once something does occur, then we're usually in the frame of mind of like, okay, what do I do? What's my next step? It's not so much fear, it's more like practical. When you're in the state of fear, it's when you're anticipating something bad happening and you don't know what it's going to be, and you think there's something you should do, but you don't know what it is, and you feel fear and anxiety. So when we're in that state, they say, come back to your own self. Stop thinking about what's out there. Come back to your four walls and see, where are you right now? Like we right now both we're in our homes. It's safe. We're both okay. And as we are sitting here, there is chaos going out in the world. There are wars happening in the world. There are terrible things. But where we are right now, we're safe. And they say, come back to that space and recognize that not everything that's going to happen is going to happen everywhere. That yes, there may be flooding. Yes, there may be economic upheaval. Yes, there may be political upheaval. But that the effect on where you live, you may experience one of those things. Not all of them, right? Maybe one of them ripples into your life. It will not be more than you can handle.
What are the most common messages? So you're talking about the future there, but for anyone listening, like there must be 3 to 4 kind of main things when you channel the angels and when they come through that they, like if you had to bullet point it, what are the most common messages that they're like, okay, we're knocking on the door on the brain here. Come on, people. We love you. Here's what we want you to know.
Yeah, I would say that the number one thing is this concept of allowing, the concept of living in grace with yourself. That understanding yourself, that you are always perfect. That yes, we are always growing, but we are always perfect. Our journey is always perfect. And if we assume that, we stop judging ourselves. That the only thing in our way is ourselves. That the obstacles we run across, those are meant to show us which way to turn. That we're not meant to avoid the obstacles. We're meant to stand in front of the obstacles and say, why? What is it about me that is creating this? This is the thing that happens so often when people when they decide to do something that they care about, and then immediately something happens and they feel blocked and they're like, well, maybe I'm not meant to. But in fact, what's happening is it is rising up to show them what's inside of them that's preventing them from succeeding. So it's meant to be a process. It's a school. It's saying, hey, here's the first book. Read this book about yourself, and then you get the next step, and then the next step. And so it's this concept. If we always come back to the idea of whenever we are in judgment, whenever we are in resistance, that is huge. Whenever we're in resistance to anything, whenever we are anything other than happy, it is teaching us something about ourselves. And so it's always the idea to try to develop that self-awareness, to come back to what is it in me that is creating this situation. And if you are in an environment, sometimes you'll be in an environment, say for example that you're driving and there's a horrible car crash in front of you, and you feel for a minute you're startled, but you don't feel triggered, then there's nothing in it for you. But if you come across that accident and it scares the pants off you, then yeah, there's something in there for you. So the key is, are you triggered? Because there's going to be chaos in the world. The key is, does it trigger you? If it triggers you, there's something there for you. If it doesn't, that's just chaos. That's someone else's chaos, and you may witness it, and then move on by.
Fascinating.
And
Fascinating.
those are the key. I mean, it always comes back to resistance and allowing. Yeah. And it's, how do we navigate? How do we live in flow? How do we move from the head to the heart? And this has been something huge for me about navigating my life, because I was super head. Everything was head. I was like analysis paralysis. And I had to learn to, now I make every single decision, including decisions about my business, my work, everything is from my heart. And what that means for me is it is understanding what feels joyful. And that sometimes we might assume that if I feel fear, that that's an emotion and it's coming from the heart, but it's not. Fear comes from the head. Fear comes from the analysis paralysis, when I think there should be something I'm doing because I'm scared, but I don't know what it is, and then I get the paranoia. That's fear, and we think, oh, I better not do that because it doesn't feel good. It feels heavy. It feels dark. No, we don't want to go away from something. We don't want to do something to avoid ever. If we're moving in avoidance, then we're in resistance and we're creating more of that. We want to always turn to what feels joyful. If there's not enough joy, don't do it. And so I analyze what I'm doing with my life. I analyze my work, I analyze everything, again, analysis, but everything in my life. And I feel, does this still feel joyful for me? And if it doesn't, I stop doing it. And then I decide what feels joyful and where do I want to expand my energy. And it makes an enormous difference. I find that when I lean into that, then life flows. And that doesn't mean that we all should stop earning money and just make baskets. We have to sometimes do taxes and do things that are hard, but the overall umbrella is joy.
You're going to laugh at this, Anne. I mean, you will and you won't. You'll completely understand it. So I recorded a solo podcast that is coming out as soon as we get off with this interview. I'm uploading that one, and I sat down a few hours ago to record it, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And the one that I was going to do, it wasn't flowing. And then there was construction, and I'm getting and I'm like, okay, but I'm going to record something. It's fine. And, right. And so the resistance, the irritation, the frustration was coming up. And I ended up recording one all about how to have more sparkle and more joy in your life. Literally 2 hours ago, I recorded this. And that's so amazing and impeccable. And a lot of it, is like what you're talking about. Like, we do have to have boundaries. And it's what I call the box. Society, I actually call the unhappiness box, because people put themselves into a box in all different ways. And, if you think about shoving yourself in a box, it doesn't feel good. And so I've learned how to live outside of the box and tap back in, because yes, you do have to live within somewhat constructs of society's boundaries, but it's how to kind of come in and out of it. And so I found that very interesting that the angels are saying this, and then we're talking about joy. And literally in 1 hour, I have a podcast all about how to find more joy in your life. And the other thing I wanted to share about signs, because this was always something like we've all had that, like, give me a sign. All right. Mm-hmm. And I've learned to, and maybe I've just convinced myself, but rainbows have been my sign. And I now see that they've been my sign. My guardian angels have clearly let me know since I was a little girl. Like, I think we all love rainbows, but I see them at the most random, strange times. And there was one point where during my divorce, I saw 5 rainbows in 1 week. And I'm like, you can't even make this. And they're like the most magnificent in Miami. And to the point where even like the other week, I came back and it started raining out of, like, literally when you say out of the blue, like it was sunny. And I'm like, that's interesting. And I'm like, I bet there's a rainbow. And I go out one window and I'm like, how is it raining? There was one tiny microism of a cloud. And I'm like, rainbow's not here. It's on the other side. I know. And I go and it's right there outside of my window. And I'm like, okay, hello. So I really learned to tap in. And funny enough, yesterday about your client with the leaves. So I was making a stir. It is such a random story. But I was making a stir fry yesterday, and I was very excited. I haven't made a stir fry in a very long time, and I'm cooking all the things, and I get to the point where I'm like, oh, I forgot a sauce. And I'm a chef, so normally I can throw things together, but I didn't have anything that I could throw together. So I walked to the store last night, and on my way back, I see a fox. Now, foxes are both, some people say, oh yeah, I see foxes all the time. I don't. I've lived in London since February. I haven't seen a fox here. And I see the fox, and then I walk around the corner, and it literally pops out right there, and we just stare at each other. And we both were like, I don't know what to do. Like, do I? And I like looked at, I was like, okay, I'm just going to walk away now. And it like did the same thing. And we kind of looked back. Then I go out and I have a drink with a friend. I kid you not. The fox all of a sudden is outside of the bar. And I'm like, hello, Missy. And she goes and she's kind of walking around, and then she steals a trash bag, and she's carrying a trash bag with her. And I was like, that's really funny. And no one else seemed to really care that much. I found it just hysterical. And this morning I woke up, check my phone, go to Instagram, and I screenshot it. The very first thing that I saw on stories from a friend was a photo of a fox in her yard that she just posted. And I was like,
oh my
how
God.
interesting. And so I'm someone who, like, sure, those could all be coincidences, or maybe it could mean something greater. And I think that's what we're all after, is that something greater, the unexplainable, because we want to know that we're not just here for the bad times and all the fear and the doubt. And like I know deep down, we all want to believe in something. And it can be really hard, as you're saying, like we're living from the head. And I'm exactly like you, Anne, that everything that I do at this point is I ask myself, is it a fuck yes or a fuck no? Meaning that my body can tell me if it's a fuck, like talking about Hermes, I just bought a pair of Christian Louboutin shoes. Why? Because it was a fuck yes. And they felt so juicy and sexy and good. I'm like, I have no idea where I'm wearing these. I have no dates planned, but I'm going to get them. Why not?
Yeah.
And so I always tell people to lean in, because if it's not a fuck yes, then that means it's a maybe, and a maybe means it's a no. And that helps keep you in alignment. So I just wanted to confirm that anyone listening, Anne is correct. I trust her and believe her. And those are some stories to confirm what you're saying. But I wanted to then move on. You have identified seven types of soul contracts. Can you walk us through what those are?
Yeah. So so there's two different things. There's soul contracts. One of the things that I talk about is soul types.
Or soul types. So, that was it. Soul types.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And so what a soul type is, it relates to how you create in the world. How do you manifest? So we think everybody manifests in the same way. We've all been taught the secret, that you're supposed to imagine it as if, feel it as if it's already happened and all those steps. But how is it that we manifest our reality? Like as it is right now, whether it's conscious or unconscious, we are constantly manifesting. But the way we do it is unique to these seven different soul types. Each of us has one. And what dictates your soul type is the shape of your thought process. It's literally how you think about things. And so think of it as if imagine like all of cosmic energy, all of the energy, creative energy is moving through you. You are a vessel. Your body is a vessel for creation. And so imagine it's like Play-Doh coming through you, and it could be anything. You can make anything with it. And you are the Play-Doh fun factory, which is like an extruder, right? You put the energy in the back, you put the Play-Doh in the back, you push down the handle, and on the front you have like different shapes. You've got silly hair, you've got triangles, you've got circles. Each one of those is a different thought process. So the one you choose is your soul type. So say, for example, you pick stars, and you push that Play-Doh through, and everything you create comes out as stars. So the seven different soul types, they work in connection with one another. And so to completely create something, you need all seven. We're meant to rely on one another. And we all have access to all seven energies, but there's one that we are best at. It is the soul type that we are meant to use. So, and it dictates the shape of our own thinking. So it's super fun. So we could do yours if you want really quick, and I could tell you what yours is as an example.
I would like to know. So I did take the quiz. Are you able to?
Okay, so what did
Are you able to tell me what mine is without me telling you?
I would need to ask you a couple questions. I could read you, but I would ask you a couple questions.
Can you read me?
If I read you, I'm going to get a lot of other things.
I know. You know what's so funny? I actually always tell that to people too, because that's like my party trick. I'm like, I can read you, and people are like, oh my god, tell me. And I'm like, and because I've also learned sort of the negotiations of the universe, and I'm like, well, I can't because your soul isn't ready to hear some of these things right now. So, okay, I'll tell you, mine is purpose.
Okay, I thought you were an expressive soul. So I was going to guess that. So out of purpose, that is your there's 4 different motivations. And I just read you, and you are expressive soul.
Okay, so tell me more between both of them.
Yeah. So there's 4 different motivations, and anybody who wants to take this quiz, it's on my website.
And I'll link it down below because it's super fascinating.
Okay, awesome. So what it means is what lights you up. And for you, so within purpose, there's 2 different potential soul types within purpose. There's the optimizing soul, which is what I am, and there's the expressive soul, which is what you are. And so for you, what that means is what lights you up, what's going to make you show up every day is being part of something larger than yourself. It is feeling like you're part of a mission or a cause or something that you feel connected to the world, like you're making a difference. And it's interesting. What's unique about every soul type. So you're the stage of creation where you have the most impact is stage 2. So I'm actually stage 1. I'm the optimizer. What I create, if you think of this as nature and you think about the process of nature creating something, I create the seed. So I like to hole up in my attic and make things, and I like to create things, and and then when I'm done, I like to just crack open the office door and throw it out there. And the person I'm throwing it to is you. And so you receive things. And what's unique about an expressive soul is that they are able to find what resonates. Where is the truth, the emotional truth in everything? And they're able to speak that truth for another person in such a way that it will be, the person will receive it as if they feel like, oh my gosh, I've always felt that, but I've never been able to express it. And so you are the one that's able to feel the truth of things and to say them in such a way that, so you are the people who inspire. You are the people who can light up a room and take them somewhere through this connection to purpose. So what's fascinating about expressive souls is that the way that they channel energy, and all of us, we get our downloads in different ways, right? So the expressive soul, you create, the way that you project is from your own heart. So you are projecting out, so you can light up a room, like I said, you can speak someone's truth and they feel like you've spoken to their soul. But it comes from your own energy. You project outwards. So because of that, your energy will go in cycles. That you will be on a stage, you will be out there, you'll be doing your thing, and people will think of it, oh my gosh, Nikki she's such an extrovert, and you will probably think of yourself as an introvert. And you will be like, no, I need to have quiet time, alone time. It's because you spend all your energy giving, and then you have to go through this period of like, okay, nobody talk to me. I am by myself, because you have to replenish. You have to fill yourself back up again. Does that resonate for you?
Yeah, 100%. And I'm very, very introverted even though I have this podcast and I coach, I teach, I have this, big following. And even if you meet me, people say this all the time, that I'm the same person that you'll see on the street as I am on Instagram, as I am to my clients. Like, I'm just me. I've actually just always been me. And what I've learned is that, yes, after you're spot on in that, in everything. Like, I even have a heart on my wrist of do all things with love. And I have to fill my own cup up first before I can give. And so this summer, for example, after my divorce, I was drained. I was depleted. I went into a total state of freeze, decision fatigue. I questioned everything about my life. Who am I? What am I doing? I essentially almost burned down everything I knew who I was down to the ground. And it was scary as absolute fuck. And sitting in that discomfort, I was talking about those little glimmers of light, and they became a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and then suddenly it would become a day. And then suddenly the day turned into a week. And then now I'm just living in this like insane high vibration. And so I don't need as much time by myself, but I do recognize, like my friends this weekend, I went out Friday night, and then my friends went back out Saturday, and I was like, I can't. So they came over, and I liked having them in my space, but I didn't want to. And I told my girlfriend this. I'm like, I don't have any more energy to give out at dinner. And she didn't understand what that meant. And for me, it's like, even stepping foot into a room is, because I am I'm like the antithesis of a people pleaser. It's my heart is going out and I feel everyone's energy. And so, yeah, spot on. Spot on, Anne.
Yeah. And then what's fascinating for people who are, so you were talking before about people feeling like they want guidance. And for you as an expressive, like your way of making decisions is you will make decisions very quickly, like very, very fast. Almost people might say it's even impulsive at times.
Yeah.
That you'll jump because you're like, no. And for you, it's a little bit like catching a breeze, that you know that if you hang on to it, and the worst thing for an expressive is the feeling of losing momentum, because you're worried about follow through. Will I be able to complete it? So for you, it's like jump on board as fast as you can, catch that momentum and see how far it can take me. So for you, making decisions is really easy. So you will feel that guidance from your heart. So it's much easier for you to tune in that way and get those insights, get those downloads. But that's unique to you. Other soul types are not like that. And so for other soul types, they will be stuck in the analysis paralysis or whatever. And the hardest thing for them is they will be saying to their guides, just speak to me, just tell me what to do, tell me what to do. And they get nothing. And the thing I would say to them is that the hardest thing we have is we think that, there's that bumper sticker, like Jesus takes the wheel. It's like that idea that we want to hand it over to someone else. We want someone else to drive. Just tell me what to do. What is my purpose? Just tell me. And the truth is that when we are born onto earth, imagine that you're up on the other side, right? You're in spirit and you're with all of your best friends, your bestest, closest, most loved, dearest friends. And you were like, we're going to do an earth life. Who's going in? Who's going to be on the field? Who's going to play? And you volunteered. And so you become the team captain and you come to earth, and then all of your team is there and they're like, okay, we're ready, team, captain, what are we going to do? And if you're there, tell me what to do. They're like, you're the captain. You have to choose. So, and as soon as we make a choice, as soon as we say, okay, I'm going to pick this, I'm going to go this way, then all of your team can come in around you and help you. But before you choose, they're just standing there waiting, like, you got to call the play. You got to decide. You got to choose, make the first choice. And then the more of yourself you point in that direction, the more help you get. Yeah. So that is the thing I just say for people who are saying, where is my sign? Maybe you're asking the wrong question, or asking the question too soon. That we have to make the choice, follow our heart, which it sounds like is exactly what you are helping to coach people to do.
Yeah. And actually within the whole manifesting process, what I tell people is that, and where I feel a lot of people get it wrong, is that there is action needed within manifestation. And there's a story of, it's a quick, simple one, but a man says, God, I want to win the lottery. Next day, God, praying to God, I want to win the lottery. Every single day, doing all the rituals. Finally gets really fed up a year later and is like, F you, God, I don't believe in you anymore. And God's booming voice comes down and says, my son, you must buy a lottery ticket, which talks about we have to put the action in. And the way that I explain it is that action is the momentum, the forward momentum of energy. So that's what it sounds like you're saying is, instead of, and I know a lot of people get stuck on this, what is my purpose? And I try always to help them understand it's not about this grand scheme of like your whole life. What's your purpose right now? Because that's where the momentum of energy starts to flow. And then you start to get answers once you're in that flow.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And I think so many people get stuck in the idea that there's so many options in the world. The more options they find, the more they feel the pressure to find the perfect one. And it is that idea that I have a purpose and I have to figure out what it is. And the truth is that your purpose, you're going to have multi-purposes for coming to earth. One is yourself. The number one thing is always ourself. It's understanding ourself, learning about ourself. So we're doing that as we engage. The more we engage in the world, the more we're on purpose, right? The more that we are learning about ourselves. So, but then there's going to be, yes, other purposes. Like we all have a spiritual gift, which we're meant to integrate into our life. Like you're using your channeling as you're doing your work. And then yes, that maybe you're meant to help certain people. You have certain soul contracts. But like, for example, you may have decided, I'm going to come into this earth and I'm going to work with my hands in this world. I'm going to create through my hands in this world. So you could do that by becoming making pots, or you could be a farmer, or you could there's lots of things. You could build things with your hands and you get to pick. And you could pick any one of those things and it's up to you. and you could choose. So the playing field is vast. And the idea that we say, oh, I've got to find the thing. And so we get hung up on it, when the truth is that the thing that makes something succeed is not that it's perfect. It is that we are putting all of our energy towards that thing, because we are the creator. So if we say, for example, there's 3 choices, and we say, I'm going to choose this one, but after I choose it, I kind of keep thinking I should have done the other thing. I'm putting half my energy over there. Well, the thing I chose is going to be half as successful. Yeah.
That was a really, really great way to explain that. Can you run us through? Now, I'm going to kind of stay out of, well, I say I'm going to stay out of the conversation, but can you explain to someone who doesn't know the difference between a soul type, and a soul contract? Because you just dropped the word soul contract, and and like, ooh, I'd like to get into soul contracts.
Yeah, soul contract. So much of our life is an open playing field, but I think of it as there are destiny points in our life where we do have a plan for our life to a certain point. Is that we plan karmic experiences for ourselves, where we say, okay, and karma just means things we decide for ourselves, but there's no judgment, there's no one else judging us. We sometimes judge ourselves, and then we also sometimes, so we say, I want to have these negative experiences, and we also say, I want to have these positive experiences. Both are karmic because we chose them for ourselves. So as we are, and in that process, and I actually saw myself planning my life. I had multiple dreams showing me planning this life, and I saw myself planning one of these destiny points or soul contracts. And so what it is a moment when I planned in my life that I would meet someone or have an interaction with someone, that there would be an outcome that was important to my progress. And so for me, it might have been my first husband, which was by far my most karmic relationship, where we were reliving wounds from a past life, and it was triggering me in the same way that my dad did, and doing all the things to help me see, and really to wake me up. And it was a blessing. It was an absolute blessing, because it helped me. If it wasn't for that, I might still be asleep. I might still be going along in my very conventional life. And now I'm clearly not. And that's because of that experience. But as I was planning it in my dream, I saw myself, and I'm on the other side, and I'm with one of my guides, and we are looking at my life as a film strip, and we're going through the life, watching the film strip, seeing this one scene, and we're watching it over and over and over, playing it back and forth, and we keep changing a piece of it, one piece of it. And then when we change a piece of it, I jump into the film strip, I act it out, I play it out as it will be, and then I jump back out again, and we talk, and we say, what do you think? Should we do it this way? Maybe I should say this instead. Maybe, let's try it this way. And then I would jump back in and try it again. And we would rehearse it over and over and over again until it was the best possible outcome to put me in the direction I needed to go. And so this is how we create our soul contracts, is that we have an agreement with another soul, and then we plan it as a destiny point within our life, where we're going to have this experience with this person, and we have certain conversations, certain meetings that are going to be critical for us. And so we're going to play that role in someone else. And sometimes a soul contract could be as short as a meeting on a bus, when you say something that impacts that person profoundly. And sometimes it can be a marriage. It can be years together, right? So it could be both. But they're destiny points for both people.
And then what about soulmates? Because I have a different belief. I think that you and I will probably have a similar belief on this, but a lot of people are like, I'm looking for my soulmate, the one. And my understanding of souls and soul contracts is that we have multiple soulmates, and they come in different forms, and not just the opposite sex, or if you're in a same-sex relationship. So what are the angels or the universe's kind of almost definition, if you will, of what a soulmate is, and how do we know that we've encountered one?
Yeah. So a soulmate is, I'm in agreement with you that there are multiple soulmates and multiple possibilities for soulmates. And a soulmate is, do their puzzle pieces fit with your puzzle pieces? So we are created in such a way that we have certain pieces missing out of our puzzle, and they are created in such a way that they have certain pieces missing out of their puzzle. And how do we fit together, right? Does my wound lock in with their wound? So for example, one of my wounds was a very, very specific wound, like very specific. It was the feeling that there would be a male partner who would see me through their own wounding, and they would have a specific wound that came from their mother, where they distrust women. And it would come from, and so then they would perceive me through that distrust. And I would be trying the entire relationship to prove to them that I was not that. And that's the dynamic. And I recreated that in my life over and over and over again. So every time I would meet someone who had that wound, who didn't trust women because of their mother, I'd be like, hey, you're awesome. Let's talk. Let me project my wounding onto you, and you can project your wounding onto me. And we'll have this fabulous dance where we really create chaos
trigger each other. Yeah.
Yes. And that is a soulmate. And so what's crazy is that when we meet a person and we have this, oh my gosh, I just have to spend every minute with them and I'm just in love, 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 that's a karmic relationship. It is a relationship with a soulmate who's there to trigger you, because we have this rush that comes from the desire to resolve the issues that we created between birth, or actually the womb, in age 7. And it feels like coming home and finding love and finding, oh my gosh, that, those horrible feelings can be resolved, and so that's why we're sucked into, and then they always go, wonk. So what's crazy for me is I resolved my karmic relationships. I went through a very specific healing process, which I healed those wounds, and it's an amazing process. But I get to the end, and then I'm finally ready to meet the person that is going to be, and it's not only the one person, but it was a person who was who's great for me, this is my first, I'm now in a partnership that is my first non-karmic relationship. Felt totally different. And for him too. Felt totally different. We did not have that initial, rush of crazy love. It wasn't like that. Instead, it started out with this very soft, subtle, peaceful, I genuinely care and about this. And then it grows deeper and deeper slowly over time, until it's this place of where there's this loving admiration, respect. I feel totally, where I can be totally myself. There's no sense of projection of any kind. We can talk about anything. It's completely different, and it started without that. So now that's how I understand when you feel the karmic, and when you have that, do it anyways, because it's teaching you something, and it's really fun for a little while. Yeah. It's fun in some ways, so do it. But when it's over, when you're done with the karma, then you get to have this other kind of relationship, which is a really different beast. It really is, and it's lovely. It's amazing.
And yeah. I feel it. I can imagine so many people don't get to experience that, what you're explaining, because they choose the first person that comes in and blows their socks off. And I work with a lot of women like this, where I can see, and given the channeling and everything, I'm like, yeah, you guys are, and I'm not allowed to, that's the laws of the universe. I'm not allowed to say that, but I can look at certain clients and know, you guys are not actually meant to be together anymore. You were meant to come together 100%. And I can see the inner wounding that isn't being healed, and then it gets projected on the partner. And it's like, because of the clairvoyancy, it's like, I can see all these things. So it's a very interesting one. And granted, I went through that, and I'm in a place of really trusting and open to and it's a lot of trust. It's a lot of trust of having gone through various relationships, and a 6-year on and off, very much twin flame relationship, and then got married, and now that person has exited my life, and really he's almost like that. It's like a ghost chapter. It's so fascinating. And now I'm just, and various people came into my life this summer to help me see what I'd learned, and if I was going to make the same choices, and I didn't. And I'm like, I passed that test. And now I'm in this place of sort of waiting by the I don't know, not waiting, that's the wrong word, but I'm in a complete place of trust that whatever's meant to happen is going to be. And I'm like, all right, let's just have some joy and fun in the process of it. And we'll see. And it's such an empowered place, I will say, because we all want control. We want certainty. We want to know what's going to come. And I've at least learned the less certainty I have about things, the more amazing my life has become. And I'm like, okay, it's totally a conundrum for the brain, but here we go. Let's lean into and kind of rounding it back to where we started, of that discomfort of the not knowing and sitting in that discomfort.
Absolutely. I love that we wound it all the way back to
all the way back.
So
I have a tendency to do that. I bring things, we bring it back. So, Anne, where can people find you?
Thank you so much for asking. So my website is the same as my name, Ann Tucker. It's Ann with an E. And then my YouTube channel also is Ann Tucker. And I do have a new book out, which is called What's Coming Next. And it's all about this great shift in consciousness. It's all the messages I've channeled from the angels, talking about what's coming and how we can thrive through the process. And that's on Amazon.
Amazing. And I will put everything down below for you all to check out, including the soul types that we talked about.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll put it all there. Super fascinating stuff. Thank you so much, Anne, for coming on. And everyone who listened, both of us would love to know your feedback. So please reach out, share any insights, any lessons, and definitely give Anne a follow. And thank you so much for being here. Until next week, here's to a sharper life.